I'm just going to finish the last thought I was having, but we actually really were kind of digging into Mars and Venus square Saturn again. So when I get a chance, I'll link the other videos on that below, and I'll put this as a part 3. Hopefully you guys will find me again. I was just basically saying that the other issue that I had with that Mars square Saturn context, and we had like Venus Mars conjunction, and we just had great things going on there. We got along really, really well. The other issue we had is him saying, you know, move to this state, which is kind of neighboring state to my state where I'm from. And I was like, no, I like our bigger city on the border on this side of the states, of those 2 states. So I was just like, no, you know, come move back here. And he's like, no, I want to live in my little tiny hometown. And I've never lived in a small town. Like I've been, my father used to kind of like stay in like smaller cities around the metro where I grew up, but the metro where I grew up is 500,000 population. So it's not really small. It's a small city. It's not a small town. So he was trying to get me to move to a small town in the neighboring state. And I was like, no, move back to our city. And then I ended up moving to California. So at a certain point, he's like, come on, move to this small town in this state. And I was like, no, move to California. So we did that for a while. And now I'm back on a hiatus, and he's remarried again. So again, it was a distance and obligations thing, but I've seen that with many clients as well. Distance and other marriages and other contracts, right? Saturn, that was what I was talking about. Saturn rules contracts and the devil. So part 2, if you go, I'll link it below. Once this is all in the playback, you can see what I was talking about with Capricorn, Saturn contracts. So the devil and tarot, let me just see while you guys are kind of coming back in here. See if I can find them really quick. I'll show you guys. I want to get on here and start doing like tarot readings too. I'm just looking at my notes really quick. Oh, I'm going to kind of touch on the name asteroids really quick, because that segues me into the quindecile and the quincunx comments that I want to make. But I'm looking for the devil here. So yeah, I see you guys are starting to pop back in here. Sorry, it just keeps kicking me out. I don't know why. So, Andrew keeps popping on here, and he had commented, and he asked me about Saturn, quindecile Saturn, because he says he has this with his twin flame. Now I know for me, who I think is my twin, I believe a sextile. It's a 9-year age difference, so it's a positive aspect, and it is like within a 5-degree orb, or a very tight orb, might even be like 3 degrees or 2 degrees. So I do feel like with twin flames, yes, there's apt, or even good life partners, you are apt to have a positive Saturn contact. If you have a negative one, it's more karmic. Either, you know, maybe say you have Saturn, square Saturn, maybe you were married in past lives, so you can't get married in this life, but you feel that duty and honor still to one another. Or if you have Saturn opposition Saturn, like I was saying, you might really want to marry each other, but because of something you did in your past lives, you know, you can't. You have to put in 15 years or 20 years before you tie the knot. So in those couples you see that take forever to actually put it on paper, those couples most likely have Saturn opposition Saturn. Okay. Or they might have another hard Saturn square, but generally with the Saturn square Saturn, I don't see it ever coming together. So here's the devil here. He is Saturn ruled. He is Capricorn. The reason I threw out the first tarot deck that I was gifted was because of Baphomet here. It freaked me out. And my ex-husband was, you know, kind of a religious narcissist. So he was like, what is this? Throw it out. And so we threw it out. But I was gifted my first tarot deck. My friend's uncle just came up to me out of nowhere, did a reading for me. I had all these major arcana and like, you know, the high suits like queens and kings and aces. And he's like, you're spiritual royalty. Here you go. And here's the book on how to use it. But I didn't know how to use it. And then these cards kind of freaked me out. But when I moved to Los Angeles and then people started teaching me the esoteric wisdom and how the astrology tied into it, I learned tarot as well. But with that being said, you see here, these two are bound and chained together. So Richard had asked me, do you think maybe that it's fate that, you know, the Saturn, my friend, and the Saturn opposition Saturn? Yes, it very much could be a karmic, Saturn rules karmic fate, that they met, you know, 15, 20 years ago. They were chained together, but Saturn wouldn't let them have a contract, which is the devil, Saturn in there, because they had to fulfill some sort of karmic duty, you know, maybe they had to stress about, maybe she had to stress for 10 years, is he ever going to marry me, you know, maybe because something they did in their past lives, you know. So yes, it could be fate, but it's definitely karma as well. And you have to pay your dues with Saturn. You know, it's kind of like, Baphomet's tricky because he's not actually the devil. But that would be a whole other video. So I just want to quickly say about the Saturn quindecile and the Saturn quincunx Saturn. So maybe Andrew, I don't think you're in here today, but maybe you'll watch it on the playback. I was just researching the quindecile, and so I was teaching you guys a trick the other day on how to know if you have a quincunx. And so if you know the wheel really well, which I have a wheel around here somewhere, if you know the astrology wheel and you know your opposite sign, the quincunx signs, it's 30 degrees, are going to be the signs neighboring you. But the quindecile is going to be 15 degrees out from that. So it's still going to be like same sign as your opposite sign or the neighboring signs. So you're going to find, yes, that, and I had said this about the quincunx, that your neighboring signs to you and the neighboring signs to your opposite sign and your opposite signs, oppositions are actually really important as well. They're very good with benefic planets like a sun opposition sun or a moon opposition moon. Moon opposition moon is moon compatibility. They're in the same polarity. So I'm just now, my mind has just now opened wide open to the quindeciles and the quincunxes. What I do understand about the quindecile is it's similar to a square, and that it has what they're writing on, like I was reading lindagoodman.com forums, is that it creates an obsessive energy. So here's what I want to say though, again, about the soft aspects, and this is where I'm going with this. I'm not really digging into the lesson on the angles right now or the geometry. Hey bud, thanks for coming back. Oh, okay. All right, that's really sweet. I'll have to get some moderators. But anyways, so basically, I've had therapy, and I'm very open to self-improvement and self-work. And I've also had psych evaluations done, so I know that I do not have any diagnosed mental health illnesses. But anyways, with that being said, you know, I am human, and I do have reactions and responses like everyone else that aren't always healthy. I have triggers as well. If my IQ is also a 127, so, you know, that's right below genius, where you're totally socially inept and where you're actually very socially inept, almost disturbingly so. But anyways, so like way ahead of the game when your IQ is in the 120s. You're just like, you know, you're not socially inept. You're like socially too powerful almost, where you can be self-destructive. But anyways, with that being said, that was a little arrogant and egoistic of me to say. But let's see, where am I going with the, okay, so when we're talking about the soft aspects, and again, I'm digging into them now, so I'm sure I'm going to have epiphanies, and I'm sure I'm going to be babbling on about them, but this is, every astrologist specializes in different areas. So I'll watch like, what's that? There's that one girl, she has a big following. I can't think of her name. She's got like long hair. I really like her. I cannot think of her channel or her name right now, but she'll like do a video on Synastry, and she'll be looking at things like, she thinks she knows like the kites and the, you know, what are those things called, like the yods. She knows that kind of stuff really well. So and I don't know much about that at all. So she'll go in and she'll be like, okay, this kite and this yod, and she'll do like celebrity natals and synastry, and she'll be finding the same things that I'm finding with the hard aspects, the way that I do it with the malefics. So everything ties to everything. Everything is like holistic. So it's basically like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's like if you read a book, you're all reading the same words. The book has the same meaning, but there's, you know, there's different interpretations or perspectives. It's almost like the opposite of that. It's like reverse engineering with astrology. It's like the book means the same thing to everyone, but it's different words that people are reading. When it comes to astrologists, we're reading different things, but we're coming to the same conclusions, and our conclusions often very much align with one another's. So if she looks at a chart, and I've seen this happen, like she's done celebrities where she looks and she's saying things based on their yods and stuff that I have already said based on their malefics, if that makes sense. Sun, Virgo, Moon, Scorpio, Ascendant, Scorpio. Yeah, check out the Big 144 series. Follow me, and you know, I'll try to expedite and get to, you know, jump around. So I'll try to do the Sun, Moon, Rising on you soon. But Sun, Virgo, Moon, Scorpio. Nothing off the top of my head because I got to finish this thought. So, but maybe I'll give you something in a second. Hopefully, it won't kick us out again here. So there's another astrologist who's a fairly newer channel, and she does synastry videos, and she uses the name asteroids, and she knows the asteroids really, really well. And I mentioned her before. And she also comes to very similar conclusions of what I come to based off my malefic, just looking at the malefics. So when I was talking to this astrology programmer who knows astrology very well, but he's much more the logical brain type, he was saying to me, like, I don't even think that you need to go into, what was he saying? He was saying some sort of different element. He's like, why do you even need to go into that when you know everything based? He was saying, and I actually think there was an old wise astrologist that told me this in Van Nuys as well. These men that have been doing it for their lifetime, who are much older than me, say you can do it all just based on the signs. You don't even need the aspects, which is how I originally started. I do think you can find more details and more predictions based on aspects and things. But yeah, to see the bigger picture, all you really need to know is the main signs. Like, you know, the sun, moon, rising, the houses, the planets. It's the aspects and all that just gives us a lot more in-depth information. So, but that's what's crazy about astrology is like, one astrologist could look at the name asteroids. Another astrologist can do what I do, which is the moons and the malefics. She could literally look at the name asteroids, okay, not know anything about moon to moon compatibility and tell you this couple is going to make it or not. I should find their names and channels and link them, and I can look at it and go off the moons and the malefics, and it's going to be the same conclusions, if that makes sense. Hers is really cool though, because she'll do like true crime, and she'll do like, she did like Christopher Watts and them, and she can like, it's like show like this murder asteroid was, you know, it's like really in depth. Now I don't know if she can do it predictively, but in hindsight, it's really interesting. I got to find her again. I think I subscribed to her, but I haven't even, she doesn't pop up in my algorithm much. So I'm going to be digging more into my software. I was looking, my other software, I do have about 20,000 asteroids in Solar Fire, I believe. And I was looking up I don't know what software she uses, but I was looking up like which softwares, because there's also Radix, which is a pretty cool one. So I'm trying to figure out which software she uses to get all in depth about the name asteroids, because this is kind of why I was thinking to touch on this. I might do a video on it. Like, so you'll find like, say you got, for me, I was noticing that when people have affairs, like every time I've been cheated on, well, not every time, but like it's usually, or, you know, somebody's kind of talking to someone else behind my back. It's usually the women have the same name. There's like two names. That it's usually those names. So I'm like, and then because the last guy I was dating, he found out my ex's name, and because the guy was kind of around our environment, and he's like, oh, that's his name? He's like, that's who my first baby mama cheated on me with. And I've known him my whole life, most of my life. So I'm like, I remember that actually. I remember, because I know exactly who told you about it, which is our other girlfriend, like mutual friend. So I'm like, she told you that, didn't she? He's like, yeah, I didn't even know till we broke up. And then she told me. And I'm like, so it was interesting that like the threat to him in this relationship was this relationship with an Aries was the same threat to him in another relationship with an Aries. He's a Libra. But anyways, so it was weird to me how, and I'm not going to say the names of the women but yeah, it was like the last Libra I dated had cheated on me with a girl with a certain name. And then he didn't cheat, but he was like talking to a girl with the same name. But he wasn't interested in her. But yeah, it made me a little insecure. So the point of the matter is they were just like friends, but anyways, I don't want to get into that. So I do think it's interesting how like these names can be, you know, or sometimes like people will marry someone that has the same name as their mother or their father. So I do think there's a lot to dig into with the name asteroids, you guys. But that's really all I have about it. So I can't really like make a whole video on it, but I'm sure more is going to come to me on it once I start finding it in my software. So, yeah, I don't even like to travel very far at all. I have a very prominent third house, which is Gemini ruled, and I have a reverse natural chart. So my ninth house is Gemini. So long distance travel is Sagittarius. So having my third house in Sagittarius, which is my most powerful house. So I might confuse you guys sometimes if you follow me. Like my most powerful sign is Aries, which is my 7th house, which is my second most powerful house, which is trine my third house, my most powerful house. And the only harmony I have in my chart is in Aries, Leo, and Scorpio. And I have no power in Leo or Scorpio, but I do love Leos and Scorpios. But yeah, so all my power is in Aries in my third house, but Sagittarius is not in harmony at all, total discord. So basically what I'm saying about travel is with all that Gemini and third house energy, I don't even like to travel. Like I moved 1,000 miles away from home, but I love my metros. Like if I'm in Los Angeles or I'm in my hometown, like these are my perfect little metros, or even like the bigger city of my state. Like I love to just travel like locally. I love to zip around town. I love the neighborhood. That's Gemini rules community and local travel. So, or going to like the lakes or the beach or anything local to me. But if you were like in LA, a lot of times men would be like, hey girl, I want to take you to, Mexico, which I kind of always did want to go to Mexico. It really wasn't that far, but I don't have like a passport. I don't know, because I'm not a foreign traveler. My family just wasn't that way really either. They're very rooted, so in the same state. Like my whole entire family, besides one cousin who has Sagittarius. She's an Aries, born the day after me, April 12th. She has a Sagittarius moon, so that's foreign travel. She won't even live in the U.S. I think she's living in Africa now. She was in Singapore for many years. She's also the most educated in my family, which is, Jupiter as well. And she just, in my whole like extended family with like all 10 cousins and 5 aunts and uncles or whatever. So she basically, yeah, she won't even live here, but, and moon is the home. So she loves to live foreign. But like when men in LA would be like, girl, I'll take you to France. I'm like, that's cool. Like, I'm not interested. Like that might be a lot of girls' dream. I would, if you want to buy me a house, like I'll never leave it. I'll cook you dinner. Like I'm not interested in traveling. And I mean, I don't judge anyone who is. It's just not my personality. Like my father used to say, I was raised every other weekend with him, basically. He'd be, that's my daughter, pack for a week, or leave for a weekend, pack for a week. I'd be bringing my big suitcase to his house to be there for 2 days, even though I had tons of toys at his house, I don't know. So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here, you guys, because I got kicked out a few times, but I'll link it all together. I think I touched on everything. I have 27 Club, the bigger picture, the name asteroids. Before it kicks me out. So send you all lots of love, blessings, and light. And write in the comments if you're watching on the playback, the live, if you have any ideas or anything you want me to touch on. And yeah, all right. And if you want a personal reading from me, it's rotation411.com. Do check out the new Astrology Dating App so you can be matched based on your moon signs and no malefics. It's divinetimingdatabase.org. And now you can go to moonmatch.love if you want to get there quicker. It's also on the Android store. So, and for you single men, I have a lot more women in there than men. So if you want to meet a woman today that you have moon compatibility with and no malefics, enter the database. You can auto search now. So you can immediately search. And if you have a match, you can immediately start chatting, which is a big upgrade in the last month or two. It took 5 years to do that. So it's come a long, long way. All right. Love and light. Bye, T-Burn. Bye, you guys.